Hello and welcome everyone. Today at our busy webinar, we are featuring JoAnne Funch with Marketing Dish. We're going to talk about creating a killer LinkedIn profile. So thank you all very much for joining us. We have a very lively house here at the BizzyWeb headquarters, which just got all of our new and updated branding inside the building. So the folks here can appreciate that. And for the folks that are sitting in the room, I'll just broadcast across for a moment. You can see everybody in the room here and some of our BizzyWeb branding over the top. So Buzz is hanging onto a whiteboard here. We've got bees flying all over the building now. It's quite an amazing event, or quite an amazing transformation for our building. Going to bridge right through a couple of things as we talk. We're going to go through a little bit about BizzyWeb. I'm going to introduce JoAnne, and we'll talk about how to create a killer LinkedIn profile. The Google tools do have the ability to ask questions over the Q&A tool, and so if you join us at BizzyWeb.com/BB, or if you go to the homepage of the BizzyWeb website and click on that article, you'll be able to see the webinar and click on the link in order to ask us questions live. We'll either table those until the halfway point, or we will answer them in line as makes sense. So if you'd like to specifically join the Hangout and talk to us or connect with us during or after the event, the way these normally go is for the first half hour or 40 minutes, we present a topic, and then the second half of the event we talk and do Q&A, tech support, help in general. So you're welcome to be here, and for the folks that are in person, right at that halfway point after we end the broadcast, we bring in food for everyone. So thought it might be a good idea not to have crunching and munching while our speaker is talking and while we're broadcasting it to billions of people, but we'll see how that goes. And so after the broadcast is done, you'll get an invite to join us live on the Hangout for the first 9 people to join, and you'll also be able to ask questions in person. So get into your car and scream on over. You know, it won't work that well if you're in the UK, but you know, we're thinking of you if that's the case. Yeah. So let's go into what BizzyWeb does. We're an online marketing company, rounds up in web design and social media. So we build online tools that help you generate buzz without getting stung. The generate buzz part is the easy part. The not getting stung means that we won't lock you into things that you don't need or get you into a predicament where you're going to be wasting time or money. Here's some examples of our websites. And when we build our websites, we set them up so that you can auto-publish your social media content to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google+, and more. What a well-set-up social account could look like includes from front to back Google+, Facebook with its brand new design that we talked about a couple weeks ago, LinkedIn, which you're going to learn a lot more about from JoAnne today, and of course Twitter. All of these accounts have gone through dramatic changes over the past 2 months. And so if you haven't looked at your online marketing or your online presence, now is the perfect time to do so. So with that, I'm going to kick over to JoAnne. And JoAnne has been a small business owner in marketing and sales since '93, and she helps growth-oriented businesses gain more exposure, making a bigger impact in their market. As a marketing consultant, JoAnne loves to teach, share, motivate, and empower small business owners to build a business and brand they love. She's also a passionate social media trainer specializing in LinkedIn for business, as well as an author, speaker, and avid blogger. JoAnne is a great referral partner of BizzyWeb's, and I'm delighted to have you here, JoAnne, so thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to switch my screen sharing over to your presentation, and then you will have control.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Absolutely.
It's really fun to be at BizzyWeb headquarters. Very cool place for all you folks that can't be here live with us. Okay, so today we're going to talk really briefly about leveraging LinkedIn. Dave did tell you a little bit about me.
There's the screen switching.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, so let me just briefly tell you that I am a marketing consultant. I have been in business since 1993, as Dave alluded to. I have a website called Marketing Dish, And I also have a website called LinkedIn for Business. You'll find out today that I am a real LinkedIn geek. I love to talk about LinkedIn, and I love to talk about what LinkedIn can do for you. Okay, so let's move right into this. Let's try to move into.
I am messing with things by clicking on things that I shouldn't be. So there we go.
Okay, so rolling right in. Here's what we're going to talk about today. I will talk about some tips about creating a really powerful and compelling profile, how to write a killer summary. I will spend a little bit of time talking about your skills and expertise, and I also want to bring to your attention some of the latest updates that are happening with LinkedIn that I think will really leverage your brand. And then lastly, I'll touch a little bit about some lead generation tips. So this is a lot of content in a really short period of time. Dave and I were chatting earlier. I tend to do presentations and workshops that are between 2 and 3 hours. So let's just rock and roll, and feel free to ask me any questions. So let's start with our profile. Why is it important? I always like to point out to folks that, first of all, your LinkedIn profile will probably rank you in the #1 spot on Google. So if any of you actually Google your name, chances are pretty good that your LinkedIn profile will be #1. So that's important enough, in my opinion, that everybody should certainly have a completed LinkedIn profile. It also obviously brings you credibility to you personally and to your brand and to your company. And LinkedIn is no longer just a recruiting tool. You know, I think it used to be sort of known more that way, but it certainly is not. It is a way for you to shine professionally. So it's important to have a really dynamic profile. And so with that said, is your profile boring? If it is, people will skip by you quickly. We all have a lot of demands on our time, and with social media, you know, you need to be able to stop people in their tracks to want to learn more about you. So with that said, I'm going to give you a couple of tips. Tip #1 is starting with an actual compelling headline. There are several experts in my industry that talk a lot about loading your title with keywords. I would play around with that if I were you, so I'm giving you a couple of examples. The example on the right is a compelling headline mixed with keywords. Keywords are very important to being found. So in this example with this woman, Laura Stack, on the left, it says, America's premier expert in workplace productivity, employee performance and execution, keynote speaker, trainer, and author. She's done a super great job of combining this compelling headline. You would want to know she's America's premier expert. Wouldn't you want to know more? That's compelling. Combined with keywords that people would actually search for in order to be found in her area of workplace productivity. The other example on the right is compelling and stat-driven. So that's an interesting title. I help recruiters and recruitment leaders increase results by 50 to 250%. Sales performance coach and trainer for recruiters. So you know exactly what she does, but the compelling piece that would draw your attention would be those stats. So those are two excellent examples of creating what I would consider a compelling headline. Now I'm going to give you a couple examples. Let's think out of the box in regards to compelling headline. This fellow, he says, I've helped 7 companies reach 1 billion. Who wants to be #8? That's pretty compelling stuff. It has 0 keywords. So I encourage you to play around with these and find something fun that works. Now let me give you example #2. This guy's the coolest guy in Nashville. Google it to see for yourself. Now, wouldn't that want you to read more? So it's a very compelling headline. You have no idea what the guy does from the headline, but nonetheless, it's interesting and it's compelling. So that's the point I'm trying to make here with your headline. The idea is you want people to learn more. It's no different than a website, right, Dave?
Absolutely.
I mean, you need to catch people's attention to want to learn more about you. Okay, so let me jump into the summary section. Next to your headline, you want your summary section to be immediately underneath the top portion of your profile. Why? Because this is the place where you actually get people to want to learn more about you. So those sections of your profile you can actually drag and drop. So be sure that your summary section is dragged to the top of the profile. I encourage you to write in the first person. We just want to be more personal these days, and specifically talk about what you do and who you help. You want people to know exactly what that is. And at the bottom of the summary section now is where we put our specialties. Those are your keywords. And then you always want some call to action. What is it that you want people to do? Do you want them to visit your website? Do you want them to call you? What is it that you want people to do next? And then you also want to add a link to media, which I will show you a little bit more of coming up. But my point is here, don't make people jump through hoops to figure out what you do, or they will leave. That's no different than a website, right, Dave?
Absolutely.
If people don't know what it is you do, they just will click off. And so think in terms of, how do I want to be perceived and how do I want to be known? Very important, and you can really articulate this in your summary section. I always like to say that you absolutely need to know what your keywords are, and my tip is it's always about the people you're trying to attract. It's not about you, it's about them. So think in terms of when you're writing your keywords and you're actually writing out your summary section, speak in the way that if people wanted to do business with you, that it would make sense to them. I would encourage you to leverage those keywords in these 6 main areas of your profile. I already talked about the headline. So if you can combine a compelling statement with your keywords, that is optimal. The title field, so title fields being your header for each of your experience sections. Those sections should include your main keywords. The reason I'm suggesting these 6 main areas, well, let me move on. The specialty section, which I mentioned to you, is at the bottom of your summary section. Also, your interests. I would put your keywords in your interests rather than your personal interests. Recommendations and the summary section. And the reason I'm suggesting to you that you put your consistent keywords in these areas is it actually works within the algorithm of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a search engine, and I think sometimes people forget that. It's pretty powerful. So, for example, I want to be known with a keyword marketing consultant. I have many keywords that work for me in search, but I put them consistently in these 6 areas. In the online world, sometimes this is known as keyword loading, but there's a reason you want to do that. You will show up in search. It's no different than putting your search engine optimization in a website, for example. It's the same idea. So be sure that your keywords are consistent in these 6 areas. And I mentioned briefly before, one of the upgrades that LinkedIn did the past year was adding images. LinkedIn has done a really great job this last year of keeping up with the Facebook, Instagram, Twitter as far as being image driven. And social media has become image driven, and you need to really be aware of that. People will pay more attention to your profile if you have images on it. So whatever you have to do to create an image that illustrates what you do and who you help will be very critical to people staying on your profile. The image above just illustrates SlideShare. If you're not familiar with SlideShare, it's actually a site where you can upload. For example, I could upload this PowerPoint presentation to SlideShare. I could then host it right on my LinkedIn profile. And sometimes I do that for strategic reasons. I will say to people, if you want my presentation, you can get it on my LinkedIn profile. And I do that intentionally to drive people there. You also want to make sure that you're adding images. So the image on the right is an image of me training. Why do I do that? I do it intentionally because I do a lot of training and I want people to hire me to do training. So think in terms of what images will best illustrate what it is that you do. And also, you'll know on LinkedIn under each section, so if you have multiple experiences, let's say, you can add images under all of those sections, and I would encourage you to do that. Again, the summary section, I want to illustrate a couple of things about what you're seeing on the screen now. Again, it gives you a chance to say who you help, and I also like to think of it as a vetting process. The more clear that you are about the type of client you serve, if they come to your profile and they are not your ideal client, then they will move on, and that's better for you and for them. Also, I want you to notice there's a lot of white space in that example that you see above, and I do that intentionally because if you single space more than a line or two, people will, their eyes just tend to move on. They won't read all the text. So it's very important that visually your summary section is really easy to view. Also, you'll notice that I have bullet points. In this example up here, there are little arrow images. You can get those off the internet easily. I do that intentionally to draw the eye to certain areas that I want people to pay attention to. So again, I can't highlight enough how important the summary section is to people learning more about you and the willingness for them to want to actually connect with you and invite you to their network, and vice versa. This is a new feature. Right now it's only rolled out to premium users, but this is a pretty cool feature that LinkedIn has. What you're seeing on the screen now, if you're in the edit mode, and this illustration is in the edit mode in the summary section, LinkedIn has a prompt on that box on the right. It says optimize your profile to get found. It's working the algorithm of people in my industry, in this example, and it's giving me search terms that people similar to me are being found under. Now, I really encourage you to pay attention when LinkedIn is giving you ideas to improve your profile, because they're giving them to you based on the algorithms of what you already have in your profile, the people you're connected with, and your industry. LinkedIn is pretty smart that way. So if the suggestions on the right are things that make sense to you, obviously, I would encourage you to add them to your profile, because what LinkedIn is telling you here is Other people are getting found by these search terms. Maybe you want to do it too. This is a very cool feature. Okay, let me move on to the skills and expertise section, which I think is almost one of the most misused sections of the LinkedIn profile. The skills and expertise section is where you can list up to 50 skills, which should be your keywords, and it should be words following your keywords that would best illustrate what it is that you're skilled in, okay? Anytime you start typing it in and it auto-populates in LinkedIn, that means they're tracking those keywords. And anytime LinkedIn is tracking a keyword, that's good for you because it helps you show up in search. So obviously this is what the skills and expertise section looks like. So you want to make sure that the top 10 that show up with the pictures are the top 10 keywords and skills that you want to be known for. If your top 10 are not up in that first section, I would actually delete them. People go, oh, I got 99 people who have endorsed me. But if it's not what you want to be known for, you're wasting valuable real estate. Okay? So consider that. Also, I want to point out that the pictures on the right, you can actually edit that entire section. So personally, I do not care to be endorsed by people that don't really know what skills I have. And people on LinkedIn who are not very savvy users do that all the time. They think they're helping me. But from my personal point of view, you're not helping me by endorsing me for something you know nothing about. So I edit those pictures that you see there. When you're in the edit mode, there's a section that actually lets you uncheck next to the people's pictures if you don't want them to show up. So this is about reputation management. It's very important that you monitor your own reputation. The other thing I want to point out in this illustration and why I left it up here is you will notice on line 3 on blogging and line the SEO, there are no pictures in a couple of places, and we call those eggheads. Mm-hmm. And those are people who don't bother to put a picture up. Now, I left it in this illustration on purpose because I would remove those from your profile. You don't want to be endorsed by someone who hasn't even bothered to take the time to put a photo or complete their profile. And I could bet you, if I clicked on those people have very incomplete profiles. Now, do I want somebody saying, hey, JoAnne, you did a great job, and I look at your profile and it's terrible? I don't want. Again, it's reputation management. So again, this whole section is editable from your point of view. Make it work for you. That's my point I'm really trying to make here. Okay, so let's talk about some latest updates that are happening within the LinkedIn system. I am most excited about the publisher platform. This was released back in the end of March, where now you have the ability to be an influencer with long-form content. And what that means basically is that you can blog on the LinkedIn platform. Just like previous to this, you only saw the top influencers in the world had the ability to do that under what's called Pulse. And everybody has the Pulse section that shows up on their profile where you see articles from all sorts of people, from business to commerce to whatever. But now LinkedIn announced this publishing platform, as I mentioned. I think it's a great opportunity for you to brand yourself and expand your credibility. It hasn't rolled out to all profiles as of now. Again, if you blog on your website, it's an easy way for you to repurpose content that you already have on your website. Would I copy it verbatim? No, I would not. But you could repurpose. So as an example, on the right, this is an article that I posted back in April, and the title is How Whole Foods Turned Me into a Brand Advocate. Obviously, you want to be writing content that's relevant to how you want to be known. Now, I have this post on my website with a different title, okay? This article did really well for me. It really gave me exposure on LinkedIn. As of this screenshot, which was back in April, it had 2,343 people that looked at this one article. There were 169 people who gave it the thumbs up, and I had 17 comments, which is phenomenal. The real key for me is, if you could see under the shares, it was shared 459 times on LinkedIn as of this screenshot. So for me, it gave me a ton of exposure. So it was a home run for me as far as I'm concerned. Again, it just gives you a chance to spread your knowledge with a bigger audience. Now, remember that LinkedIn has 300 million users. So I think it's ideal. I can't encourage you enough to consider, if you're writing long form content now, to turn it into content on LinkedIn. I also want to give you a tip to how this can work better for you in search. At the bottom of my post, I created an author's bio box. Now, it doesn't tell you to do this. I just did it myself. So I created that text that said about the author. I wrote a very short 2 paragraphs about who I am. You'll notice I did 3 things in this bio box. The first one is my name next to the red arrow. I actually hyperlinked it back to my Google Plus account. I'm trying to get some juice on Google search by hyperlinking it back to that. Also, you'll notice it's hyperlinked the word small business owner, which I have hyperlinked back to my marketingdish.com website. And then lastly, you'll notice I hyperlinked LinkedIn for Business. I have a website called LinkedIn for Business. So I'm making this work for me, for people, for all of those 2,000 some people who actually viewed this article. I want them to learn more about me. So again, this is something that you absolutely, if you decide to do this, you want to add something about yourself as a footer to the article. So I've only published a few articles so far, but I put this same footer on the bottom of every single one of my articles. This is kind of a fact that the number of views on your long form posts is dependent on the quality and relevance of your content. And I'm sure Dave would agree with this if he were talking with you about blogging and the content on your website. This is no different. So you want to be sure that if you are actually writing long-form content, that it is congruent with your brand and your business. Very important. If you don't have the publisher option, LinkedIn it does have a link here. I haven't checked it lately to see if it's still active, but I think it is, where you actually can request to receive it early. I did it right away and I got accepted right away, but they do ask you when you go to this link also what you're publishing now. So if you are a blogger, you would put a link, for instance, to your blog so they can see that you're actually writing content. If you aren't writing any content, I think that it will roll out to everybody. I think everyone will receive it, but who knows when? Could be a month, 3, I don't know.
And JoAnne, we are getting a few questions in. I know right from the beginning, Steve mentioned in the first profile that we went through, the lady mentioned that she executes a number of things, including employees, so he wanted to know why they execute employees. But also, Jeannie mentioned great tips on editing endorsements and skills sections, and that she hopes more individuals optimize the LinkedIn page and hire JoAnne to do so. So thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you, Jeannie.
And Steve specifically wants to know how to put that footer in to the pages on Publisher. And I think that's really relevant. I was going to ask you that too.
Yeah. So Steve, it's really simple. The editor on Publisher is just like a WordPress editor. So there isn't a special section for the footer. I just space down 3 or 4 spaces, and then I just paste it in at the bottom of my post after I've allowed some spaces on the bottom.
Right, and that's it, the LinkedIn Publisher. It is its own WYSIWYG tool, so you'll type right into LinkedIn on that Publisher.
Correct.
Okay, and then link back to your own site. So hopefully that helps, Steve.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just mark that as done on the Q&A tool. As a reminder for everyone else that's watching, we have a bunch of viewers, so if you want to add more questions, be sure to log into Google by going to google.com/plusbusyweb, clicking on the link on the Q&A, and go ahead and ask those questions of JoAnne. And we're going to keep going because I know we have more content in here. So thank you, JoAnne.
You're welcome. So this is pretty exciting. This just happened last week on LinkedIn. They now have the banner image that you can add to your profile. They just released this last week. Now, it's only available on premium accounts at this time, which means paid accounts. I think it's a great opportunity for you to further brand yourself and your business. So I'm all for it. I think it's a great move on LinkedIn's part. If you have a premium account, you will have access to this immediately. You'll notice to the right of my name, on the far right, it says premium. So if you do have premium on your account, you do have access to this. It is my understanding that LinkedIn will roll this out to everybody. Again, hard to say when that might happen. There are some real advantages right now to having premium status, because in search, now it does highlight any account that is a premium account. So it's highlighted. So right now, LinkedIn is giving some spiffs, so to speak, to anybody who has a premium account. So you will come up higher in search. You will be bolded. I think there are a lot of advantages to having a paid account, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. I'm not suggesting that one needs the most expensive account. I don't think you do. But it gets you things like this. It gets you things quicker than other people will get them. So I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and Steve had also mentioned if you think the paid account is worth it, and I'll layer one thing on top of that, because I know that there are different levels. Yes. Like the LinkedIn Premium Basic or something is like Basic Premium Lite, and I don't know if that gets the premium or the header image.
It does.
It does? Well, that's an easy one, and that's like, what, $5-10 a month or something like that?
$10 a month. Yeah. And just a tip on that, as long as you brought it up, Dave, is if you go to linkedin.com/personal plus, which is that account you're speaking of, I think that's going to go away. So if you do not have a paid account, this is what I'm hearing through the LinkedIn community, that is going to go away. You should grab it now, because I think Dave's right. It's only $10 a month.
Right, and then hopefully you get grandfathered into that.
You will get grandfathered.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So sneak in at $10 a month and enjoy all the benefits later.
Yes.
What are the other different levels? And because I had heard in a conversation with another client that there was like this super crazy one where it was like hundreds of dollars a month, and I don't know what this like for HR hiring managers or something.
Yeah, if you're in the recruiting business or HR, there's some real benefits to having their recruiter package. I'm not even going to get into all that right now, but if you're not a recruiter and if you're not in HR and that isn't your business, I would skip that. But you would want to click on the differences are for sales. So you will the more expensive accounts just give you more data, number one, and number two, gives you more ability to find layers of people that you might not have the ability to do now. The other thing that I think is critical and key is the who's viewed your profile. If you have a free account, you only have access to the last 5 people who have viewed your account. If you have a paid account, you have access to everybody who's viewed your account in the last 90 days. And the data that now is available to you is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's hot leads right there. Those are people
phenomenal.
That have checked you out.
So one thing that I teach in my advanced training is I teach people how to follow up with people who have viewed your profile and how to vet them. So to me it's worth a paid account. I hope I convinced you of that, Steve. Okay, so let's jump into the last topic here. And I'll talk a little bit about how to generate leads because everybody wants to know how to do this. I am really a stickler because I'm such a LinkedIn geek. I get so tired of people just being name collectors. I get invitations every single day from people that send me the default invitation. They don't say anything about themselves, and I have absolutely no idea why they want to be in my network. For lead generation to be effective, you cannot use LinkedIn that way. You will never, ever see results. It's all about relationships. So I have a few tips for you that I think you'll find helpful when you're thinking through how do I make this work. And number one is to create a strategic list of possible connections. Think of people you might know that might be influential to your business and your business goals. You always want to go back to what are my business goals. Think about what type of a person makes a good contact. All these folks that send you the default invitation that you say, I don't know them, they're not a good contact for you. And we have to be willing to say this doesn't make any sense for us. The next one would be what type of a person makes a good client. So when I'm working with people on marketing, I always sit down and talk to them about what is your ideal client? What do they look like? Who are they? What are the specifics of who might make a good client for you? Okay? And who makes a good vendor? Maybe you use outside vendors. What does that look like? Really write down what is that criteria about who makes a good vendor, and then you'll know how to spot those folks. Who makes a good referral partner? Dave and I are great referral partners, and we have had this conversation a number of different times, and so we've really kind of keyed in on who are good referral partners for him, and I encourage you to do that with other folks within your network because to have somebody referring you the kind of business that you want, that's, you know, like that golden key, right? Right. We all want that.
And just to layer on that, if I could for just a second,
absolutely.
You know, the referral partner idea and mindset is really who can feed you your best leads from a trusted perspective. So, for example, in the example of my friend Jim Barra, our friend Jim Barra, I believe, you know, he says, you know, who's the best referral partner for an orthodontist? It's going to be a dentist because dentists are going to know well before the orthodontist when some kid's teeth are screwed up and they need to talk to an orthodontist, right? So JoAnne and I know if I have a client that needs a lot of help on LinkedIn and wants to make that a real big part of their online marketing push, I'll refer them to JoAnne any day of the week because she can do it better than BizzyWeb can. And I know about that person before she does. Likewise, she's working with a lot of business professionals that probably have really crappy websites and need help from BizzyWeb. So she refers me over for those folks. And it works out brilliantly that way. So
exactly. So really understanding who your referral partners are and how will you identify them, and how will you reach out to them on LinkedIn? These are all really good questions you need to ask yourself. Okay, so how do we find strategic connections? If you're not using the advanced search, I would really encourage you to do that. You'll notice on the screen around the red, I've highlighted on your nav bar, if you click on advanced, it gives you so many more ways to search for that list. Now you've just made that list, right? You know the kind of people you're looking for. So now you want to find them by keyword, by name, company, title, location. And then you'll see the drop-down menu also I've highlighted there. You can search for people, jobs, companies, groups, universities. You can search for all kinds of things. This is a powerful, powerful search engine. And I would encourage you to spend a little bit of time. So here's, if you're in advanced search, what it looks like. You'll notice on the top it has first, second degree connections and group members. So your result that you will put into your boxes on the left, for example, will give you results with the folks that are first, second degree connections and group members. I've highlighted the information on the right because, again, you don't have access to that unless you have a paid account. And I can't remember off the top of my head which level of account you need to purchase that. But my point is there's so much information that you can garner by using search and really honing in on what the type of folks that you're really looking to connect with. I really believe that the juice is really in the second degree connections. And so the example that I'm illustrating on this screen is sort of interesting. So whatever the search terms that were put in there, the result on the top was 898,607 people with the search term I put in there that are second degree connections. Now, if you notice what I've highlighted on the left, 171,998 of those are in the Minneapolis area. Those are people that I am not connected to as a first degree connection. That's a whole lot of folks that I could be reaching out to. So again, think in terms of maybe people that are good referral partners for you or vendors for you. Look at who they're connected to, because this is where you're really going to leverage your network, and you are absolutely going to start creating a more profitable venture on your time on LinkedIn. And study those connections. Look at their title. Are they a decision maker? Oftentimes people say, well, I don't know how to get to them. Well, do you share a group? Who are your mutual connections? Oftentimes you can open a door in a conversation through mutual connections. Do you share interests? Oftentimes I'll tell you the sleeper is under volunteer and causes. If you're trying to reach out to somebody and there's somebody influential and you don't know how to open the door, scroll down to volunteers and causes, and all of a sudden you might discover that you share a passion for a particular cause. That always opens the door for a conversation. I'm very intentional about LinkedIn. It really is a way that I've built my business. So I put folks out on a spreadsheet. I'm really good about follow-up with people. So if you want to make this work for you, really all of these steps are things that you do need to really consider. Number one mistake on LinkedIn is sending this default invitation. You'll notice by that red arrow it says optional. When I teach LinkedIn, I say this is never optional. You never want to send this default invitation. You always want to personalize it based on whatever your intention is. Here's just a simple example of what I mean by creating a custom type of invitation. It's 2 sentences. It takes you no time, but it's very clear why, if I received this from you, I would know exactly why you're connecting with me. Also, you know, it's a way to open the door to conversation. If you send me the default invitation, I go, now what? I'm busy. I don't have time to follow up with you because I don't know what you want. So really think in terms of that, and I share this with you because now you'll pay attention, right? So next time people are inviting you and you get the default invitation, you're going to go, oh yeah, JoAnne told us that. What does this person want? I don't know. So be intentional. Also, I don't know if you realize that LinkedIn has a CRM tool that nobody is using, which is crazy to me. This is another great upgrade that LinkedIn did about a year ago, where you can actually make a note of a conversation. You can put how you met the person. You can tag them into folders. I'll tell you, this is my lifesaver. I absolutely use it all the time. It makes me a much more effective communicator when I can actually follow back up with somebody, and I can specifically relate to the date and time we last spoke. I guarantee you that I stand out from the crowd because I'm really good about my follow-up. And lastly, I want to talk about thinking in terms of building relationships. And in this social world we live in, we talk about social selling. The days I think of real cold calling, kind of hit you over the head sales is gone. We live in an area where we're talking about social selling with people, and all that really means to you is that it's a way for you to build relationships with prospects who might either be your ideal client, referral partner, vendor, all those folks. So I want you to think in terms of this is social selling. How do you get the conversation going? That's part of the social selling process, is building rapport with people. So I just mentioned to you, how do I build rapport? Well, I can look to see what we have in common, look at the people we have in common, look at our industries, look at our causes. All of those things you have at your fingertips if the person has completed a really good LinkedIn profile. I always send everybody a thank you. I'm really big about that. I actually use snail mail, and I mail people thank yous. And if you have invited me to your network in a way that's meaningful to me, I always send out a thank you. I always use the person's name. I guarantee you that people pay more attention to what I have to say than if you sent that default and then you never follow up again. So these are simple things that I would encourage you to get in the habit of doing, and you will find that you will get returns from LinkedIn. So the last thing I really want to say is, how do you know it's working? If you can't measure your results, you don't know if it's working, right? So here's a couple of ways that I think you can measure LinkedIn, and that's I track every month how many new connections I've made. That's a measure of, is it working? Am I actually getting more referrals? You can track that. These are real trackable and measurable stats. And do I have more quality vendors? And can I attribute some business that I've gotten directly back to a connection that I've made on LinkedIn. I would encourage you to keep track of these, even if it's on an Excel spreadsheet. It's simple enough. We all can measure whether or not your efforts are working, and I think it's really important, because so often to me people throw up their hands with overwhelm and say it doesn't work. You probably hear that a lot, Dave, with just social media in general. Doesn't work. How do you know it doesn't work? You can measure. There's very expensive tools you can buy to measure it, or you can do things as simple as this with an Excel spreadsheet, right? Makes sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know we're at 10 minutes till, and I want to make sure that everybody in person here is given a chance to get their chow. So if we have any last-minute questions, I know that Jeannie Hill did follow up with, saying following up with leads on LinkedIn is the key fruit of being on LinkedIn. Too many miss this experience, and JoAnne offers key advice on how to turn connections into vital business relationships. It all comes back for me to the same thing.
Yeah.
You really need to do LinkedIn if you're going to get anything out of LinkedIn. So don't think that you've taken, everybody on this call and in person here has taken a great step at doing something by educating themselves on this, but now it's up to you. You actually have to go onto LinkedIn and do it. And so build that up. And I'd love to bridge in, JoAnne has right on your slide here, what's the one action you're going to take today? One of the big things that you should take today is to consider doing the next option of this event. And JoAnne, I know that you've got a special offer specifically for BizzyWeb clients. And so if you'd like to take more time and go into a LinkedIn workshop for optimize your efforts for more effective lead generation, so this is a masterclass. It's not for beginners. This is for people that have taken that next step to figure out how LinkedIn works and aren't afraid of making those connections.
Right.
No eggheads allowed. If you filled out your profile and if you've actually used LinkedIn, this is the place to be. It's only $97, and that's the BizzyWeb offer price.
It is.
And normally what's the price on that?
$147. So
we're knocking almost 50% off for that. So thank you very much, JoAnne,
You're
for
welcome.
doing that.
Thanks for having me.
It's going to be so cool. Want to skip ahead so that we can get to lunch and to other questions for folks.
Yes.
But in general, I'm not even going to skip over to my slides. Be sure that you check up next week. We're going to talk about Pinterest for business. So this is the visual side of business. And then coming up after that, we have email marketing, followed by, and this isn't in any order yet because we're still working on our calendar, text marketing, SEO, signage and branding, Instagram and Vine, legal issues. Erin's going to be on here. She doesn't even know that yet, but I'm going to have her back. Blogging basics, referrals and leads, and just how to grow your business. So every Wednesday at noon, stop on by for Buzz Builders. We'll serve you lunch if you're here. If you're not, we're going to make yummy sounds so that we try to get you here. And it's just this is our time and our place to help you grow your business in the vein of helping you generate more buzz. So JoAnne, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to close down the broadcast right now, but folks that would like to join and ask more questions in person, there's a link on the Buzz Builders article or the BizzyWebnar article today to join the LinkedIn or to join the Hangout, and you're absolutely welcome to keep asking us questions at that time, but we're going to close down the broadcast so that we're not publishing us chomping on chips to YouTube. So thank you all very much, and remember, at BizzyWeb, as with LinkedIn and JoAnne's Marketing Dish Company, we help you generate buzz without getting stung. Have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next time for Pinterest.